back to the Right Team podcast for a Fast Break Friday from the press box here on the podcast. And man, we're back for another jam-packed show this morning featuring the latest from local sports and beyond, all from our perspective right here in the beautiful piney woods of East Texas. I'm David Weaver, joined as always by my partner from the press box, the pastor of Friendship Baptist Church in Marshall, Texas, and a basketball savant. We all know him as Brother Matt Paul. Matt, all I can say, man, and we've talked about it before we hit record here on the podcast, but it is Friday.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but it's been a week for me with all my regular stuff going on with Right Team Services, and I think I've mentioned I drive a school bus, which is always a daily adventure in and of itself. And we're a week away from spring break, and so I don't know who needs the break more, me or the kids, but we're getting to that breaking point of somebody needing a break. And anyway, we get one more week to go, and then thankfully we'll all get a few days apart from each other. Right.
Yeah, we start spring break here. Excited for my wife. She gets to start spring break on her birthday. So I already told her happy birthday, but we'll give Miss Kelly Paul a shout out here. We're excited. Spring break always means that it's like, for me, the best time of year because baseball's rolling and basketball's at its best moment, and it's exciting stuff.
It's good for me because the first round and second round of the NCAA tournament, of course, will be during my spring break. So I don't have to worry about missing anything. Let's get going here with our show, of course. Starting out with Beast Texas this morning. Of course, this segment is once again sponsored by Styles Electric, proudly serving East Texas from offices in Longview and Mount Pleasant. Styles Electric has provided reliable, professional electrical services for over a quarter century. For quality workmanship and trusted experience, choose Styles Electric in service that speaks for itself. Well, we'll start out here with the result of last night, the girls 2A D2 state championship. Unfortunately, our local team came up a little bit short last night. Martinsville goes down to Lipan by 7, 42-35 there in the Alamo Dome, which of course is my backdrop for today's show. It's an interesting place always, just talking about the Alamo Dome, at least watching on TV. I've been to the Alamo Dome, but never with a basketball setup. And I don't know, I'm one of those guys that don't necessarily enjoy watching basketball in the dome when it kind of feels like they pushed you off in a corner there with the curtain and everything. I don't know, it would be tough to me to consider having to shoot like I normally would in a big cavernous place like that.
Right.
But anyway, all of that aside, Martinsville makes it to the state championship, but again, comes up 7 points short.
Yeah. Lipan, a heck of a program right there. And was hated to see it, was certainly, I mean, we've literally adopted Martinsville over the last 2 weeks. It's not like we go way back for them.
Probably where you and I feel comfortable talking that we try to keep tabs on out there and north of Athens and just south of Canton, the Canton area. It's kind of right there on the border of where you and I normally talk about. But hey, when a team in a program and a school like that is so successful, particularly in basketball, hey, we can adopt them. Who's going to stop us, right?
For sure.
So congratulations to the Martinsville girls there on another fine season of basketball. Again, coming up short as the state runner-up in last night's girls UIL state action. Another full slate of games going on down there today, 4 games today, and then they'll finish that off with another 4 tomorrow. They're all playing in San Antonio's Alamo Dome. Coming back home just a little bit closer here to talk about the boys, we do have 3 region final games going on this evening. We mentioned this a little bit yesterday, but just wanted to repeat that for everyone. Liberty Iowa is facing Dallas Madison in the boys 3A D1 Region 2 final. They're being played at Tyler Junior College this evening. Boys 2A D1 Region 3 final is Hawkins versus San Augustine. That's an all East Texas final there in the region. That takes place this evening at 6:30 at Beckville High School. And then there's still hope for Martinsville to bring home a state championship trophy at this point because their boys are taking on Chireno this evening at 7 o'clock in Lufkin in the boys 2A D2 Region 3 final. So those are your remaining UIL basketball games from our area here in these regional finals. And hey, the good thing is we're going to get at least 2 teams from our area that we cover down in San Antonio next week at the state championship, because 2 of those games are all East Texas finals.
That's right. That's right.
That's also the benefit of adopting teams. You increase your chances of going to state tournament.
That's right. Yeah. You, especially when you find one that's ranked in the top 5, right?
That's right. I'm going to be a Duke fan now, right?
Hey, come on.
This time
Stop
of year.
Stop that. No.
Baseball tournaments, man, baseball actually started, some of them started their district play earlier this week in our area, but they have returned to tournament play this week. And just about every team I could find, Matt, and looked at their schedules are playing tournaments. I believe this is the final round of tournaments, final round of weekend tournaments in the area. But you got tournaments going on everywhere in baseball. Hallsville's got one, Tatum's got one, Lufkin's hosting theirs, Mount Pleasant's hosting theirs, and several more going on. So there's some baseball around. If you can get it today, I would probably caution everyone, you probably want to watch it today, because tomorrow it looks like it's going to be a washout.
It really does. It looks like
2 inches of rain predicted for our area tomorrow.
Yeah. Definitely.
Softball district play again continues tonight. They are a couple of weeks actually into their district schedule, so make sure you know where your local team is playing this evening. It's a district game most likely, and of course those always mean something at the end of the season for sure. Wanted to kind of start something new today in each of our segments with a question of the day, where you and I get to really just kind of talk about and break down some things. And I know this one that we've chosen, or I've chosen actually, would go well with you, with some opinions with your doings at KMHT and in the radio business. But you know, and as I was trying to kind of follow the game last night down in San Antonio for Martin's Mill, I couldn't find anything without going to either, you know, the back pages of Twitter somewhere. Again, Dave Campbell's Texas Football, Matt Stepp do a pretty good job of keeping you updated on things like that. But when you kind of have a lull and you're kind of wondering where the game's at, if it's over, that kind of thing, I mean, it's kind of hard to do that. And the reason being is, I mean, you can watch the game if you're willing to pay a fee for a streaming fee from the NFHS streaming service, which has gained control over all of the broadcasting rights for the UIL. And my question today is, from your perspective, and we've kind of talked about this a little bit in the past, particularly in football season, it becomes a hurdle for you guys at KMHT and other local broadcasters when you do get into the postseason for streaming, right?
Yeah.
So just kind of give me your perspective on that, and then I'll tell you kind of where I sit on it.
Well, I got a couple. I can actually view this from a couple different perspectives. One, as someone who's intimately involved with the athletic program at Marshall and always working in the press box and, you know, doing coaches shows and things like that. And then, of course, from the radio side of things. From the radio side of things, it's very frustrating. It is a lot of, like, there are a lot of times, like when we get to high school football playoffs, Ashley Dansby, our general manager at the station, is like Sunday afternoon having to come in and put in requests, even though the game may not be till Friday, because if you don't do it early enough, you might not get it. And I don't like that. I don't like that it's hijacked that way. So from the radio side of things, and of course we can still broadcast on the radio. This is only the streaming thing, right? But now, and this is going to move into the other side, the perspective of from the athletic, being involved with an athletic program. But I'll start with the radio side of things. Radio is meant to be listened to. The fact that we constantly feel pressure and get a lot of feedback about, well, this isn't very good video quality, or this isn't, I'm like, we're a radio station. Like, that is what we are. But I'm going to go now to the athletic side of things, and like, the more streaming we make available, you and I have talked about this, the less people are coming to games. They're not coming to games like what, you go to Elysian Fields and you see it packed out. But we see it at some of these bigger schools. My goodness, you even talked about how easy it was to get a Carthage ticket in one of their biggest regular season games of the year, because your connection there said, look, it's barely gonna be half full. So I don't like that NFHS has a monopoly on this, but at the same time, if it prevents streaming from becoming widespread, I don't necessarily mind it, because I don't know how much I like the whole streaming thing anyway, because I want people to be at the games.
Part of it, I do agree, and we have talked about that in football. I'm a big believer in that I do believe that the local streaming over Facebook and YouTube and things like that, of course, all of that really got started during the COVID, a couple of years there of COVID. And it was a good thing. It was a good thing. It allowed people who felt uncomfortable coming, to a football game that was live. It allowed them the opportunity to continue to follow their team. But yes, I do believe at the larger schools, it has hurt attendance. There's no question about it in my mind. And I do agree, and I understand where you guys say KMHT come along, because you've kind of created a market that you really had no control over, right?
Yeah.
So a good thing for you guys and for the community, and actually providing that service when it was needed, now kind of works against you in many ways, and trying to work with your partner at the high school and the school district.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to fix that. I mean, I'm not that smart. I don't know that it can be fixed. It's kind of like Pandora's box. It's already out. So, now the thing is, how do you work together to make it better and keep everyone happy? The main thing is, if you want to watch a football game and experience it all, go to the stadium and support the kids. I mean,
yes.
Don't make it all about you sitting in your home on Friday night where you can watch a game on Facebook or whatever and then complain about it. Like you said, it is what it is. You are a radio station working largely with one camera, and it's not going to be an NFL Sunday broadcast. It's just not. No. There's that part of it. There's this other part of it that, again, I'm a little bit, and I remember, back in the day of when I was a full-time sports editor there in Marshall, really back in the day, 25, 30 years ago. Yeah. But this was going on with the UIL, and of course the UIL owns all of the rights to all of their UIL events. Particularly, it's a problem in the playoffs when you're a local media outlet and you're trying to cover your team. You have to jump through all kinds of hoops. The farther you go in the postseason, to even get a spot in the building.
Right.
That was a problem 30 years ago. And I know from some radio buddies that I have known over the years that it continues to be a problem with trying to get, broadcasting rights, even on the radio. I mean, you do have to get approval by the UIL to be able to do that. I did look up with my good friend Chat, last name GPT.
Yeah.
And
how you pronounce that?
I just call him Chat, my boy Chat. But of course, the UIL does, as I said, own all of the broadcasting rights for all of their events. And it's very similar in that regard to the NCAA. And they have made this agreement, this deal with what's called the NFHS, actually stands for National Federation of State High School Associations. That's one of my problems here in my conservative mindset, is that we're bringing in a national group to come in and have the streaming rights on all of our, Texas high school. But it is important to understand the UIL owns that right. So this is a contract that they've signed for a certain period of time with this particular group. Okay.
Right.
And they are the primary digital streaming platform. As you said, radio can still go on the radio and follow that. Case in being, just in point, but no better example than Carthage, right? Carthage,
right.
KGAS gets to go and broadcast their state championship games. But the key, and as you said, they can't stream it like they do during a regular Friday night in the fall.
Right.
But the problem with that is, and for me anyway, I don't know if it's so much a problem as just a nuisance, is that you have to pay for that service. And, you know, in many ways, in a lot of ways, well, most times it's just really, it's either a bit cheaper or just right at the same amount as you would pay for a ticket to the game. But for some reason, I hate paying that.
Yeah.
Right. I hate paying that. And that's just me being an old guy and not wanting to pay money for something that would be in my own home from the most part. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of an annoyance. And most people don't see it. And look, we're going to have Jack Stallard as a guest host next week while Matt is on, one day anyway, on his spring break trip. But I know Jack from following him and talking to him. He gets all kinds of complaints and things like that coming from people who don't like to go behind a quote paywall to read a story.
Right.
Now, how do you expect someone to do what Jack Stallard does, do all the work, his time, his effort, and a newspaper that's trying to make money in a struggling industry, trying to look for all kinds of new ways to stay afloat? Most newspapers are. And you expect him to give you that work for free. I mean, that's kind of the same kind of mindset. So I kind of feel guilty when I feel myself, I'm not paying, like last night, I wasn't going to pay NFHS to watch the 2A girls state basketball championship. But I could have if I wanted to. But it's a, I don't know if you want to call it a problem or, like I said, a nuisance, but it gets on my nerves.
Well, what I kind of compare it to is, and look, now in the day of DoorDash and everything, I don't know. I don't ever do that where I live, so I don't know how much things cost. But in general, if you want something delivered to your house, as opposed to just going to the restaurant, sitting down and eating it, in general, that's going to cost a little bit more. I would expect, you have to pay a tip to the driver and there's a delivery fee and all the rest. And you think, why does that cost more? Well, it's primarily because convenience. You want something that's more convenient for you. Therefore, it typically costs more. That's just sort of the way it works. And so that's kind of my whole take on this thing with getting to stream it is it really should cost. It should cost more than the price of a ticket to the game. I feel like not as a punishment or whatever, but at the end of the day, like if you want to be able to experience something, but you want it in the convenience of your own home, usually that's more costly. And so that's just kind of the way I view it. I don't really like the hoops we have to jump through for NFHS at the radio station. That's frustrating, but the root of it all is the whole streaming thing. And, it's, I think we both kind of said it. It's just, we'd like to see full packed houses rather than, and 800 people on a stream.
Yeah. Is NFHS and UIL control over broadcasting rights? In many ways, that's been the case forever. Dealing with UIL, they've always had the broadcasting rights. This is how they've chosen to do their streaming part of it. But when it does keep people away from the stadium, I guess I'm okay with, if you're going to do this, you're still going to pay the price of the ticket. My question is, do schools get some of that money?
Right.
Did Martin's Mill get a cut of whatever, NFHS took in their subscription fees last night?
Right.
That would be my question on that. If so, and they're getting a little bit of that to kind of offset ticket prices, say at a home game or whatever, then I guess I'm okay with it. But the way to get around it all, guys, is just go watch your team play. Support your team in person as old school, and if you do want to listen to the great broadcasting on KMHT and your local radio station, take some headsets, some ear pods and take them and put them in your ear and listen to it. I've seen that too, and it works. But anyway, That's a good question for us to talk about. And like I said, we've kind of beat it to death back in football season, but I noticed that last night and I was struggling with the thought of it again. So I wanted to talk with you again this morning and from your expert broadcast opinion.
Yeah. Well, I use that term loosely, but yeah.
You are the expert in the room, definitely, when we talk about that kind of stuff. And theology, probably. Moving on to our on-campus segment of today's podcast, which is brought to you by East Texas Baptist University. ETBU combines strong academics, championship-level athletics, and a Christ-centered mission that influences every part of campus life. If you're searching for a university where faith, competition, and community matter, discover Life on the Hill in Marshall, Texas. Visit etbu.edu to learn more. Okay, Matt, you are our, as I said, basketball savant on the show. And I know you are keeping up with your back row bracketology, which you gave us yesterday. Some of that may have changed even overnight. So any big movers and shakers throughout the men's world of college basketball last night that you saw?
Nothing huge. Actually, I got a bigger eye toward tonight. Really good game between Michigan and Iowa, and I was very impressed with Iowa, even though they didn't pull it out. Michigan's been just boat racing teams in a lot of cases, and Iowa hung with them at one point. Michigan got up 63-53, kind of with about 6 or 7 minutes to go, and I was like, here we go. This is where it all, kind of collapses. And then Iowa went on an 11-1 run and tied it back up, and it went down to the wire, and Iowa had a deep three to tie it at the buzzer and couldn't get it. But it's one of those games where I think you probably proved more in a loss than some people did in a win last night. So I think that helped. And for Michigan, it's just another notch, as they are solidly into a number 1 seed and hoping to maybe get the overall number 1. They could still catch Duke. South Florida at Memphis. I thought this was maybe a trap for them because Memphis is not very good, but Memphis has talent. South Florida is very athletic. South Florida is a good basketball team. They took a good win in Memphis. I think you and I talked a little bit yesterday that's a team that I'm like, bubble teams better be worried, because if South Florida wins, I think they play Sunday, and then they get at least 1, maybe 2 wins in the conference tournament. If they lose, I think they're still going to get in, which means now 2 teams from that conference get in and somebody gets bumped. So there's that to keep an eye on. But tonight, 3 major games this evening, which, by the way, let me just go ahead and say, you've got multiple quarterfinals, semifinals, and first round action in conference tournament play tonight and today. And it's just so much fun. And there's some good games. I don't know if you saw yesterday in the Patriot League, Lehigh won a conference tournament game on a shot behind half court.
Yes.
It's so much fun to watch. But some big games tonight. One is, if you remember on my bracketology, my last team in was VCU at 6:00 tonight. Virginia Commonwealth plays at Dayton, who's 21-9 and 12-5 in conference. That's not an easy game. If that is a win, that would be a pretty good win for them, but it's one they probably also need if they want to stay in the bracket, considering where they are on the last spot. Also tonight, I believe it's tonight at 7:00 our time, Central Florida and West Virginia. West Virginia's at home. West Virginia's in that new category I added called maybe kinda, because the bubble's so soft right now. It's just there for the taking. So West Virginia's out of options right now. They've got to go on about a 3-game winning streak, win, and then maybe get a couple wins in the tournament. Central Florida's kind of in a free fall. They lost 2 home games to teams that won't be in the tournament. They're still on one of my last 4 buys, but if they lose again, I feel like they suddenly get into danger territory. So that is definitely one I'm watching. And then I believe, and I'm trying to double check this, I'm looking at the full schedule. Yes, tonight at 8:00, St. John's at Seton Hall. Seton Hall right now in my back row bracketology is in that next 4 out, but a win over St. John's is what you call a signature win. That would be one of those we'd put in red. That would be worth a jump at least into the next level of first four out for Seton Hall heading into the Big East tournament. So some really critical games on a Friday night, and then I'm not even going to get into Saturday. It is a full slate.
Yeah.
And on Saturday we get our first auto bid. So I'm excited about that.
Okay. There were some things I wanted to bring to your attention, which I know you probably already know, so I'm not really probably scooping you on this, but did you watch or hear about the Sun Belt tournament on the men's side yesterday with Georgia Southern knocking off Arkansas State?
I watched a good bit of that game.
Yeah, Georgia Southern was 8-10 in Sun Belt play. They come into that game, or actually come out of that game, with an 18-15 mark. They defeated Arkansas State, which was 20-12. They're 80-77. And, you know, when we were talking last week, you brought up in one of our segments the actual Sun Belt tournament format. Well, yep. Georgia Southern right now, with that win, is one step closer to that, what you were talking about, the 6 wins in 6 days.
Yeah.
Kind of a miracle scenario to kind of run the table there. They're halfway to that. You know, they're now through the third round, and of course, it's going to be a busy weekend for them. It's going to be fascinating to see, particularly in this tournament for sure, how long their legs can hold up.
Yeah.
You know, I've been with a team, you know, covering ETBU at the time where you had to win 3 games in 3 days in a tournament format. I can't imagine having to win 7 in 7 days, or 6, whatever it is, 6 and 6 days.
Yeah, they had a bye on the first day, so they at least avoided that. But yeah, they're going to they won on day 2, and then they won on day 3 yesterday, and now
so that would be their 6 wins in 6 days. They had a bye on day 1.
Yeah,
so the most somebody on day 1, if they were going to make it, would have been 7 games in 7 days.
Correct. And so, you know, they're playing South Alabama, who's 21-10, pretty solid squad. This is their 3rd game in 3 days. But that's the thing to remember, every game they play over the next 3 days, if they keep winning, every game they play is against somebody that is on full rest. And so going to be a challenge, no question about it.
Also, did you see in the Big South, and this is March Madness, you did mention Lehigh and Holy Cross. That was mad, you know, that was just shocking and just exciting kind of thing. This one here, I think, just explains why this time of year means so much to so many. But in the Big South Conference, in their first round yesterday, you had 4-28 Gardner-Webb with a 1-15 mark in conference play, squaring off against 13-19 South Carolina Upstate. Guess who pulled that one off?
Yeah,
and sneaks by South Carolina State, or South Carolina Upstate, 65-64. And so with 4 wins on the season, they're advancing to the second round of their Big South Championship. Now, imagine.
I want to be clear. That was win number 4 for them.
Yes, it was.
They were 3-28 coming into that.
Statistically, record-wise, they are one of the worst teams in college basketball this year.
And they are. And Gardner-Webb is playing 27-4 and 15-1 High Point today at 11 o'clock. And let me just tell you, High Point is one of those teams. They were in the tournament last year, so they got a little bit of tournament chops to them. They're one of those teams that if you're like a 5 seed, you're like, oh gosh, I really don't want to play them. And so, but they got to get out of their tournament. That's the thing. They're going to have to do it. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, if Gardner-Webb gets past High Point, whoever else is on that slate for them in the tournament and gets an NCAA bid with 6-7 wins, whatever that is, there's a movie script in there.
Yeah.
And I want to write it because
they need to
never ever see that again.
Yeah, and they probably need to end the movie before the actual NCAA tournament because no one's going to want to see that game. But yeah.
Well, yeah. Can you imagine them playing Duke?
Now I will say they'll probably be in one of those.
Those play-in games. They have to win another one.
Yeah. But so they can maybe win that one. But
they're someone's worst nightmare though. as far as stealing a bid potentially.
I mean, here's the thing. If they come out of that tournament, if they were to do that, and let's just say it because I think it's about to end here in a couple hours. But
yeah, by the time most folks are hearing this, it's probably over with anyway.
Yeah, but let's talk about it now. If they were to come out of this tournament, more than half their wins on the season would be in the conference tournament. They would have 7 wins, and 4 of them would be in the conference tournament. So, yeah.
But you mentioned it all season long. This is what makes March special.
Yeah.
Because, back in football, you lose your first couple of games. I mean, you're in trouble. No chance of winning a national championship. Here, these kids have won 3 games prior to yesterday, won 3 games on the year, and technically they are still alive. Their dream is alive in the national championship. So, I did want to mention here too before we move on to the ladies. I don't know if you saw this or have heard this, but this is a tweet I saw yesterday, and I don't know again how true it is or whatever. But this guy's got a first name and he doesn't have a check mark. So, but it says here, many in the Kansas athletic department think Bill Self's retirement after the season is inevitable. Have you heard that news? What do you think about that?
I have not. It would not surprise me.
Yeah, he looks like a tired guy. He's been through a lot.
He has had 2 of the most. At best, I'll say enigmatic. At worst, I'll say problem players in Darren Peterson this year and Hunter Dickinson the last couple years. It's funny, last year they were a 7 seed and Arkansas was the 10, and I felt supremely confident we were going to beat them because it just wasn't right. Things weren't right. And we did. You and I have already talked at length about they seem ripe for an upset this year. So it would not.
I'm picking them in the first round. I would pick them to be upset.
Yeah, I did not hear it, but it would not surprise me.
Yeah, I did. I think I will. I may change my heart by then. Not have the guts to do it. Let's move on to the ladies. And before we talk about their conference play last night, and we mentioned briefly the brawl that happened again in the Sun Belt. Man, there's a lot of stuff happening in the Sun Belt this week. But you mentioned that brawl. I did want to mention just kind of some more details from that for folks. You've probably already seen it. It's all over ESPN because it's just so rare to see these kinds of things in a ladies game. But of course, Coastal Carolina's Tracy Houston, who was kind of the instigator of the thing. She's the one that got up and actually started throwing punches. She was suspended for the rest of the postseason. So she's out. She's done.
Yeah.
I guess they lost that game. So, I mean, does she even have a season left? I don't even know if they're going to make the women's tournament, but she won't be a part of it anyway. And on the other side, South Alabama, Cordasia Harris, who was the one taking most of the blows based on video, and Amaya Sutton and Daniela Gonzalez all were suspended for 1 game. Of course, they won the game and advanced and played the next round last night. The referee, Marla Gearhar, was punched and knocked to the floor. She did require medical attention, but did not have to go to the hospital. But this was a quote from South Alabama's AD, again, prior to their game last night, which they did win, by the way. So these girls, their suspensions are done, and now they're back playing at full strength. Their AD said this yesterday. The incident that took place in Wednesday's game is extremely unfortunate and unacceptable. However, after an extensive internal review, I do not believe the actions of all 3 of our student athletes rose to the level of being classified as fighting as defined by the NCAA rulebook. This judgment has negatively impacted the tournament experience of our suspended student athletes and stripped them of limited opportunities to compete in the postseason. Some of that is a moot point as South Alabama knocked off Texas State on Thursday, 69-59. So they have advanced to today's 4th round. I thought that was kind of a look. If I watch that fight, number one, what's the number 1 rule in a fight on a basketball court? You don't leave the bench.
Don't leave the bench. Right? Yeah.
You don't leave the bench, and you don't throw punches. And the girl who threw the actual punch that started everything, of course, she's no longer playing basketball this year. So I don't know. I understand this Joel Erdman, their AD, kind of circling the wagons a little bit, but ultimately it's not going to matter because they're going to be at full strength again today. But I just thought that was kind of an odd comment for him to say that
Yeah.
that fighting is defined by the NCAA rule book. That wasn't a fight. That was an all-out brawl.
Yeah.
If you've seen
Yeah.
the video.
Yeah. I agree with that.
I've never seen anything like that in a women's game. I mean, I've
It's
seen some
rare.
ladies get fired up, but I've never seen anything where, I mean, it was just chaos there for a few seconds, and certainly
very
anyone getting
rare.
knocked out by it.
Yeah. Certainly an official.
That's right. So yeah, and women's college basketball for sure is very much in tournament season, just about everywhere. If you look at the scores from last night, there were some mild upsets, I guess, in a couple of areas. Most notably in the Big 12, as Texas Tech got eliminated with their loss, but specifically to Kansas State, 58-51. Lady Raiders were 25, are now 25-7. I wouldn't think that hurts their tournament chances much. It may cost them a couple spots in the seedings, but really that was the only major upset that I could find. Did you happen on the lady side to hear or see anything that was earth shattering in that regard?
I mean, Alabama beating Tennessee was kind of interesting because I don't know where Tennessee is right now. Like, I'm wondering on bracketology, which has been updated. I don't see Tennessee on any of the last four stuff. I was trying to see, and I just looked at it in passing, if they're still even in the bracket, because they have definitely been in a bit of a free fall here of late. Yeah,
yesterday was their seventh straight.
Yeah,
They've
they're
lost
listed. They're listed as an 8 seed. They're 16-13, 8-8 overall, and just looking at their seed projection heading into February, they were seeded as somewhere between a 3 and a 4.
Yeah,
and they're an 8 now. So obviously they're falling. I'm more looking to today, where number 17's playing number 3, number 7's playing number 6, number 11's playing number 19, number 24 is playing number 5. Most of those are in the SEC, but not all of them. It's good stuff.
Yeah, Tennessee ladies certainly aren't the Lady Vols that, I mean, just not so recently were right up there with UConn in terms of women's college basketball. Rest in peace, Coach Pat Summitt, right? I mean, she was the superstar among coaches there until Gino started challenging them a little bit in that regard up at UConn. But man, they are no longer the same program for sure. They go all the way back to while I'm looking at it here, they go all the way back to they had a postponed game at Ole Miss, I believe, probably overthrew the whole ice storm kind of thing, maybe toward the end of January. And since that time, they've lost 10-12.
Yeah,
that is not playing right. That is not peaking at the right time for sure. I did want to give an update, or just kind of a weekend update. We did talk about ETBU earlier this week, but I wanted to give an update on their weekend schedule. A lot of stuff going on for the Tigers in and around the country, actually. And of course, ETBU is our on-campus segment sponsor here on the show. Baseball is actually out west. They are playing a weekend series at Pacific Oregon in Forest Grove, Oregon. I don't know exactly where Forest Grove is, but man, it's beautiful country up there. They're going to have a really nice weekend in Oregon.
Good program they're playing too.
And we have mentioned this. We mentioned it earlier this week about softball. Of course, the undefeated Lady Tigers at 8-0 are this weekend at the NFCA Leadoff Classic. As there's my partner there with all this technology showing us they are playing as we speak. I believe they're playing number 13 Emory. Is that right?
They are.
At the Leadoff Classic there in Columbus, Georgia. That's kind of a home game for Emory, I would think, from Atlanta.
Yeah.
Later this evening.
I was going to say I don't have a scoreboard up here, but I did see us push at least 2 across in the second inning. So I know we were scoreless after 1, but off to a good start, it looks like.
I think just immediately after that game, then they will play Berry College, kind of a back-to-back doubleheader here. And Berry College ranked number 23 in the country right now. So a big day of ranked softball there at the NFCA Leadoff Classic. Tomorrow they get a little bit of a break in that they play unranked Pomona, Pitzer, and DePaul. But then they follow that up with the big one, Matt, on Sunday at 8 a.m. Olympic times here at 8 a.m. But they will face the top-ranked team in Division III, number 1 Trine, again Sunday at 8 o'clock there in Columbus, Georgia. So good luck to the ETBU softball team as they look to continue to stay undefeated on the season. If they can run the table here and remain undefeated, they got something going this weekend for sure.
Well, if they run the table this weekend and they aren't number one, I don't understand. I don't like this is you're playing number 13, number 23, and number 1. No, look, that's a tall task. Please hear me. This is one of those weekends. If you go like 4-2, you still feel really good about yourself.
Sure.
But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But they've been very successful in this tournament in the past.
They'll be back again next week on the road in Florida with another tournament before finally being able to return back home and play, I believe, on March 28th or 27th. I think I'm scheduled to actually work that game as the public address announcer. So
I think they actually have a midweek game on March 17th.
They do. That's right. You're right. They'll be back against
University of Dallas.
Yes, University of Dallas on that Tuesday, I believe. And then they open conference play, I believe. Maybe that weekend. In any event, I love being out there anyway. It's kind of like second home to me. I've been there a lot over the years. So anyway, always love some ETBU softball at home. Come out and watch when you have an opportunity. Continuing here with the schedule for this weekend for the Tigers. Beach volleyball, which we've talked about the last couple of weeks. They're on the road at the Huntington College Beach Bash in Montgomery, Alabama, which I don't think Montgomery's on a beach. It's kind of a play on words there with the beach bash, I guess.
Neither is Marshall, but we had a tournament here last weekend. So
beach bash, right? So I guess if you just bring sand in, you're on the beach, right?
That's right.
And then, of course, the ETBU track and field teams, I believe, start their spring meet schedule this weekend. They are at the Southwestern Invitational there in Georgetown at Southwestern University. So good luck to the men and women there running and throwing and jumping for the Tigers at the track and field meet. Our question of the day for the on-campus segment here from the Press Box on the Right Team podcast. And this came from my partner, Matt Paul. Matt, I had this great idea last night. I felt really good and confident about the Beast Texas high school question. And then I ran into a brick wall trying to come up with something here. So I texted Matt and I said, hey, you're going to have to come up with a question. And literally almost before I hit send, I get a text back and he says, check it out.
Yeah.
So you had this on the tip of your tongue for some reason. So we're going to talk about it for a second. The question is, should they expand the NCAA tournament? And before we answer that, just everyone know who's listening here, whatever social media platform you're looking at, I'm going to put this question up as well. So we want to hear from you to kind of get your opinions on what we've talked about here today on these questions of the day for sure. But first of all, Matt, since you came up with the question, obviously you have an answer. Should they expand the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, I have a rather unpopular opinion on this because most basketball purists, which I would kind of consider myself one, I love the game, are like, no, leave it the way it is. I'm in favor of expanding it if you do it the right way. Now, the year that we're seeing right now is one of those cases against expanding the tournament because, as we've talked about with the muddled mess down there at the bottom, you're like, I guess there's a couple more teams we've got to put in there, right? So I would like to put some caveats on it, but here's the thing: it's not nice and neat anymore. Once you went to 68. 68 is not nice and neat. You have to play 2 games on Tuesday and you have to play 2 games on Wednesday just to get it to 64. So then you can go to 32 and a 16 to 8, 4, 2. So we've already moved off of this. I'm going to tell you, if you went to, and this is something I have wished for, and this is selfish because I love it, but I want you to consider this. If we went to 80 teams, so we're expanding by 12 teams. Your Tuesday and Thursday, right now, your Tuesday and Wednesday. Right now, your Thursday and Friday have 16 games each, right? I mean, that's what we love about it. It's just 4 games going on at all times throughout the day. You would have a Tuesday and Wednesday where you would have 8 games each day. You would have essentially a appetizer version of Thursday and Friday on Tuesday and Wednesday. Another thing I like about it is, we were just talking about Gardner-Webb if they get in. I hate that there's 2 16 seeds that are going to play each other in Dayton on Tuesday or Wednesday night, and then they're done. You going to tell me they feel like they made the tournament? You going to tell me that if Bethune-Cookman plays Maryland-Baltimore County, they're going to feel, and then they lose, that they're going to be like, well, at least we were there. You don't feel like you're in the tournament if you're one of those little schools. And yes, unless you see like a Duke or a North Carolina or a whatever on the other side, and you're like, man, we're there now. We're there now. So if you did this, if you expanded it to 80, then essentially what that would mean in the 4 regions is on opening day, 13 plays 20, 14 plays 19, 15, 18, and 16, 17. And then we move forward from there. If you're a 20 seed, you're not going to beat Duke, but whoever the 13 seed is, it might be somebody like a West Virginia or an Oklahoma, and you could maybe beat them. And then you still feel like you did something. Now, what do I mean when I say I want caveats? Look, I don't want a tournament where more average teams get in. And I fear expanding is what that would be. I like the idea of, and I'll just give you an example. I look at a couple teams we've talked about, like we've talked about High Point. We've talked about Belmont before. There's South Florida we've talked about. Miami of Ohio is one, although I think they're going to get in anyway. McNeese State and SFA. You know, set a threshold, and if you bow out of your conference tournament, but you still have 5 or fewer losses, I don't care. You're going. You're in. SFA, well, we mentioned High Point, who's 27-4 right now. If they go win 2 games and lose in their conference tournament championship at 29-5, do you want to see 29-5 High Point in there, or do you want to see 18-14 West Virginia? I want to see High Point in there. And I think most people would agree. We'd have to have some caveats so that some of these teams can get in. But I don't get why we wouldn't want more. Conference. Look, I'm looking at the number of do you know how many D1 basketball teams there are? Do you know how many in basketball, men's basketball?
Top of my head, 150-ish.
It's the same number of days in a year.
365.
365 D1 teams. And so you're going to tell me
football.
Yeah. You're going to tell me that we're watering it down too much if we add more. No, we're not. The percentage is still not that high. So I know that doesn't make me a purist because most people think it would water it down. I do think we ought to have some sort of caveat to make it to where some of these teams that had such a great regular season but had one game where somebody got hot, where they'd still get in. But I'd be in favor of expanding it.
I'm going to put a caveat on it myself and say I agree with you. I would be okay with expanding it with a couple of conditions on my own. Number one, do not get rid of the conference tournaments.
No, agree.
Direct contrast to what we talked about, I think, in agreement with football. I think we're in agreement that you should get rid of the conference championship games.
Yep.
But we've talked about for the last 2 or 3 weeks how exciting it is to watch these conference tournaments play out because of what's on the line. I mean, you can literally play yourself into the championship.
Right.
You can be a Gardner Webb and make your conference tournament and have a bad season and make history still with just 3 wins, right? So that's number one. If we can come up with a system that does not tamper with those conference tournaments, okay, you got my vote. And then the other one is I don't want to see it where we have to extend the postseason, the NCAA tournament by another week. You know, right now it's 3 weeks. So, you know, if it could be done, like you said, with the first rounds being played the early part of that week, before you get into the traditional first round on Thursday, I would be okay with that. I would not be okay with if we said, okay, we have to start this, you know, the week before and extend to it, and all of a sudden you've got yourself a 3.5 week, almost month-long tournament. I think that's too long. So if you could work it to wherever you have 80 teams or however many you need to fit within that that time frame of the beginning of the week, then I'm all for it. I mean, I'd say why not? Especially when you bring up the amount of teams that we have. There are some really good teams that get sent home. And I know no one really cares about this, but almost don't even – it's hard to remember that it even is a thing, but the NIT, usually is the fallback plan for those teams that don't make it. And I don't know how that would affect that particular tournament. Again, no one really cares about the NIT, but it's kind of a plan B for some teams.
And a lot of people opt out of it.
They do. They really do. And so but yeah, I would be okay with expanding the NCAA tournament. I'm kind of on the fence when we talk about expanding the CFP.
Yeah.
I can go back and forth on that depending on the day and the argument. But for this one, yeah, I'd be okay with that with as long as we, did those two things I asked. So
yeah.
Good stuff there, partner. Thanks again as always, for your expert information and insight that you can really tell you love college basketball, man.
Oh, yes.
Appreciate it. Okay, let's move on to the back page. The back page segment today is brought to you by Right Team Services. Right Team Services helps schools, small businesses, and nonprofits turn ideas into impact through clear messaging, effective writing, and strong connections across websites and social media platforms. When you need results but don't quite have the words to say, let us at Right Team Services provide the voice that you need. Learn more at rightteamservices.net about how we can help you tell your story. What you got on our back page this morning, Matt?
Well,
did you remember what you were trying to remember?
I did. So kind of funny. So my favorite Razorback football player of all time is one that actually became a Cowboy. So you're probably familiar with him, Darren McFadden. He was Heisman runner-up back-to-back years. One of those years, at least, I think he was robbed. But anyway, that's fine. But almost no one knows who the quarterback was during his time at running back because he did so much Wildcat quarterback. There was another running back we had named Felix Jones, who also played in the NFL. We had another running back, a fullback named Peyton Hillis then, who also played in the NFL. He actually led the NFL in rushing one year. So it was a loaded backfield. But the quarterback was a guy named Casey Dick, whose brother Nathan also played for Arkansas. Serviceable quarterback, and you really just needed someone who wasn't going to screw up so Darren and Felix could and Peyton could do their thing. Well, Casey Dick went on to become fairly recently, head coach at Fayetteville High School. So he stayed in the area. He's been the head football coach at Fayetteville High School until a couple days ago, maybe 1 or 2 days, I don't remember, earlier this week, he resigned as Fayetteville head football coach. And then I get an announcement last night that Rockwall-Heath has hired Casey Dick as their new head football coach. So here's a program they're in one of those districts we cover. And at least I think that's where Longview plays usually. And boy, a guy from Fayetteville, Arkansas, which oddly enough, a couple years ago, Texarkana played Fayetteville, Arkansas in football. But here he is getting a job. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. Northwest Arkansas football is some high-level football, okay? But it's a different world when you come to Texas. And so I just thought it was a big deal that a former Razorback and Fayetteville High School coach is now the head football coach at Rockwall-Heath.
Yeah, I saw that too, and we did talk about this back in football season, I believe. I remember it about the quality of football up in Arkansas compared, of course, to down here in Texas. And it's not surprising to see coaches from surrounding bordering states. You see that a lot. You see them come over here into Texas. It's kind of like, and I don't mean to put down any of those states at all, but I believe the evidence speaks for itself. It's almost like moving up from Division II to Division I. As a coach, it's kind of like a progression in your career if you can get the right job in Texas and make your mark here, as opposed to doing what Casey Dick was doing, lifetime Arkansas guy. And he just kind of, it almost feels like, okay, I've accomplished what I want to accomplish here. Now let's go see if I can do something else.
Yeah.
And so kudos to him. Rockwall-Heath's getting a good one, obviously. And that's somewhat close to home here with a couple of our local teams, of course, competing against them head to head. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. My part of the back page today, and again, I just kind of settled into coming up with three things, but I did want to talk about this question that's going around. And again, this is kind of one of those fluid things that could pop before anyone gets to hear what we're talking about. But there's this question that the Cowboys are facing. And again, the closer we get to free agency, I'm more encouraged by the fact that I believe the Cowboys are going to be players in free agency. They have to be.
Yeah.
They have to fix their defense. And the thing that you would like to do before you enter the draft, again, they have very limited draft capital, a couple of first rounders, and they don't pick again until day 3. They're going to have to spend money in free agency to get better. I mean, they just are. So, of course, the big name out there on the defensive line, the defensive end in particular, is Trey Hendrickson, right?
Yep.
But the Cowboys allegedly are in the hunt to make this trade for Maxx Crosby of the Raiders. And depending on who you believe, the Cowboys were the front runners yesterday, and then some other teams got involved, and Dallas said, okay, we're not willing to go to that price that these supposedly the Raiders are getting. So it'll be interesting to see before early next week or even over the weekend, possibly today, if they move Maxx Crosby on their term, meaning the Raiders, which they've been adamant about getting a Micah Parsons type thing, which would be 2 number ones and a player, which the Cowboys thankfully are saying they're not going to give up. I'd be willing to give 1 pick for Maxx, one of the first rounders for him, but I'm not giving them 2. And I'm certainly not throwing another player into that.
Yeah.
I saw one of the rumors yesterday that the Cowboys offer that was on the table was for the number 12 pick in the draft this year and Tyler Guyton, their left tackle. And the Raiders spoke and said no to that. So so my only fear with Maxx Crosby here, and I've got him pulled up here on my screen just to kind of to look at, but of course he's been in the NFL now for 8 years, but he's only 28 years old, and he has 69.5 sacks. Now he hasn't had a double-figure sack season since 2023 when he had 14.5. But it's not just sacks with him. He's an effort guy. He's a motor guy. He's a clubhouse presence.
Yeah.
You can drop him in coverage if you need to. I mean, he's just kind of an all-around defensive player. Again, he's 28 years old. Very similar in age somewhat to Micah Parsons, okay? You look at Trey Hendrickson, who the Bengals announced this week that they were not going to franchise tag him, and so he will be a free agent on Monday.
Yeah.
Of course, he comes in at 31 years old. He's had some injury issues the last couple of years. But you go back to 2023 and 2024, he posted back-to-back 17.5 sack seasons. The issue with him, he's not probably as versatile as Maxx Crosby is. So, what's he going to draw on the open market? The question is, you could probably see Dallas signing him for anywhere between $30 to $35 million a year.
Yeah.
For a couple of years, maybe. I think that would be less expensive. I think Maxx Crosby comes in, his salary is somewhere around $30 million, which is a bargain for a pass rusher of his quality. But man, I am against the Cowboys giving up any more picks than that one. If it's going to cost me more than number one, I'm saying thank you. I'm moving on down the road, and I'm going to go after Trey Hendrickson. That's kind of where I stand.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Especially look, if this team was close and didn't have needs at virtually every position other than defensive tackle, I would say go all in and let's go get the guy. But man, we got to have bodies, and you get bodies by keeping your powder dry in free agency and going and kind of throwing it at everybody and bringing in a lot of folks, not just one guy. So anyway, that's where I stand on that. I'm interested to see how that plays out here over the next couple of days. We saw this yesterday at the very end. I think we actually had signed off, and you brought this up to me that it came across that the Rangers had signed 39-year-old Andrew McCutchen. And I just wanted to ask this question. Why did the Rangers sign a 39-year-old guy who his hometown, I mean, his only team that he's ever played for pretty much, I mean, he had he had kind of dipped his toe in some free agency water for about 5 years, but he came back to Pittsburgh 3 years ago. And so, he is by and large known as a Pittsburgh Pirate for his career, but he's 39-year-old Pittsburgh Pirate. And the Rangers brought him in on a minor league deal, kind of like a tryout, if you will. So my question was, why did the Rangers sign a 39-year-old Pittsburgh Pirate? Well, I went back and I pulled Andrew McCutchen again. He's a Pittsburgh Pirate. So unless you're somewhere in the area around Pittsburgh, you probably, or just a deep, deep baseball fan, you may not know just how good of a player that Andrew McCutchen once was, at least. He has had a season where he's hit 31 home runs. That was back in 2012. So that was back in his younger days. I think we all can say we do a lot better in our younger days.
Yep.
But just 5 years ago in 2021, he had 27 home runs with the Phillies. Last year he had 13, and he had 20 the year before. So that tells me he can still swing it.
Yeah.
He's a good athlete. You know, he can play the outfield in a pinch when you need to. I see the Rangers doing this as kind of a platoon kind of thing, maybe, if he can make the squad. Y'all remember the troubles Jock Peterson had last year? Who is still there, and right now is their full-time DH. Throw somebody in there against lefties like Andrew McCutchen. I could see this being a quality signing, not to mention the fact that he is a grade A #1 clubhouse presence.
Yeah.
To replace Marcus Semien, who apparently got crossways with Corey Seager.
Yeah.
Over something, who knows? And, you know, we all know where Marcus is at now. But there is a void in that area. And I'm kind of excited about this, as excited as I can be again for a 40-year-old guy back in a Rangers uniform.
Yeah, that feels – the clubhouse thing feels more like the answer there. But, yeah, curious to see how it goes.
And then my final item here from the back page is just kind of a sad thing. And I titled it Myles Garrett Speed Addiction, which is a play on words. Okay, I'm not saying he has anything untoward or anything. Of course, he is the reigning NFL Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah.
A unanimous pick, I believe, for that. But he was clocked last month. He was going 94 in a 70-mile-per-hour zone on the interstate. I don't know that I've ever driven 94 in my life. I don't think even in my younger days I even did that. But this is Myles Garrett's 9th speeding ticket since he entered the league in 2017. Pulled over on February the 21st at 1:30 in the morning when he did this in Wooster, Ohio. Given a court date of next Tuesday, but won't have to appear if he pays the fine, which, you know, he'll pay the fine and get off on it. This comes less than a year, actually last August, when he was clocked for speeding in a Cleveland suburb when he was going over 100 mile per hour in a 60 mile per hour zone. And we talked about this before, and I don't want to go into too much detail on it. I just wanted to bring it up again, and I'm just going to say this. Why can we not drive the speed limit, or at least stay within safe?
Yeah.
I don't.
Did Garrett go to Georgia? Can't remember.
No, he went to Texas A&M.
I'm joking. Yeah, I know where he went.
No, I was going to get to show my knowledge to you a little bit and scoop you, but no. And look, some people, you know, they like fast cars and everything else that goes along with that, right? Yeah. And I am an old guy, and I am a school bus driver, so listen. Drive the posted speed limit, but most of all, be safe. Yeah, right? It's impossible to be safe when you're going over 100 miles an hour. Yeah, it just is. You know, the laws of physics and science come into play, and believe me, I see it every day driving a school bus route.
I bet you do.
You don't know how to drive in this country, particularly in this area that we live in and call home. So, just a little bit of word of warning there. When the blue pulls you over and you're going 94 and a 70, just hand him your license and be glad that he may not take you to jail, because if you've gotten 9 in the past 8 years, you probably need to have it upped a little bit. Yeah. Okay, as we get ready to close out today's episode of From the Press Box here on the Right Team Podcast, we get to our segment, which we like to call This Date in Sports History. And, man, I got a couple of things for you here just to see, again, maybe I can scoop you on some of this stuff. But on this date, March the 6th, 1922, did you know that Babe Ruth signed a 3-year deal with the New York Yankees at, you ready for his yearly salary?
Let's hear it.
The grand total of $52,000 a year.
Let's go.
Paid for on this date.
Let's go.
You know, That's close now, maybe, or maybe a little bit more than the average salary that an American may make on a year.
Yeah.
That was Babe Ruth's big time breaking the budget for the Yankees that year, $52,000. March the 6th, 1945. I just thought this was a neat little deal, and I can add it to some sports trivia. But George Neeson, again in 1945, of Cedar Rapids, Iowa, filed for and received a patent for the first modern trampoline. You ever been on a trampoline, Matt? You like jumping on a trampoline?
Used to. I don't risk that anymore.
It had its birthday on this date in 1945 when he received his patent for that. So congratulations to him. And again, parents everywhere are thankful for Mr. George Nissen.
Well, and now it's been an Olympic sport. So yeah,
it is an Olympic sport. As a matter of fact, it's a college sport at ETBU, acrobatics and tumbling. Right? I do believe they use trampoline in that. Okay. Birthdays today, a couple of really big ones here that I know you'll know. In 1940, March the 6th, Mr. Willie Stargell, Hall of Fame first baseman, two-time World Series champ with the Pittsburgh Pirates, nicknamed affectionately Pops of the We Are Family era of the 1970s, of course. He was born on this date in 1940. Of course, Pops died in 2001. And here's a name for you. On March the 6th, 1972, one Shaquille O'Neal, Hall of Fame center, four-time NBA champ with both the Lakers and the Heat. Kind of forgot he won one with the Heat for some reason. I don't know why I forget those days. One of them was against the Mavs. But Shaq turns 54 today, which is kind of another surprise. That seems kind of young to me. Maybe he looks older than he really is. But anyway, 54 years old today. Happy birthday to Shaq. I figured you had to be putting him on there because I knew my wife shared a birthday with him, so I figured he would. Oh, he had another birthday you want to make a note of again. You've already mentioned it, Miss Kelly Paul. Happy birthday, Kelly, out there. I know she's getting ready for spring break here, as most teachers are, who are getting to experience it next week. That's right. And we do have one death to remember here today. Rest in peace and remembrance in March the 6th of 2006. Hall of Fame center fielder with the Minnesota Twins, Kirby Puckett, passed away. He died of a stroke at the age of 45. Wow. At the age of 45. I had mixed feelings about Kirby back in the day, of course, when I was an Atlanta Braves fan. Again, speaking of jumping teams in the 80s and 90s, of course, Kirby stole my heart in Game 6 of the 1990 World Series, I believe. One of the best calls of any World Series is the ball sailing over. We'll see you tomorrow night. Yes, I remember it well. I remember it vividly. That was also the Kirby Puckett Jack Morris game / John Smoltz game. Yep, that went into extra innings, and of course Kirby ended it with that walk-off left center there in the old Metrodome. The Metrodome. But Kirby was just a fun guy. It's kind of hard to not like Kirby Puckett. He was he was my kind of guy, my kind of player. Physically, if we put it that way. Our final word of the day comes from Psalm 23, verse 4, the 23rd Psalm. But it says this in verse 4. It says, even when I go through the darkest valley, I fear no danger, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Folks, fear loses its grip on you when you remember who is walking with you. The valley may be real, but so is the shepherd walking alongside us through it. Remember, the God on the mountain is also the God in the valley. Amen to that. Thankfully. Right. Once again, he is Matt Paul, and I'm David Weaver. And both of us thank you, Right Teamers, for listening out there in East Texas and beyond. Have a great Friday, everybody, and a fabulous weekend. And for those of you going on spring break, have a safe and restful spring break. We will be back on Monday for another episode of From the Press Box here on the Right Team podcast. And until then, as always, stay safe and keep writing your story.